Okay, cool. We're set up and ready to go. So today we're going to call it Automation Day or Zapier Day because that's the tool we're going to be using. Um, so let's just quickly recap what we've done so far. On Monday, we built a card site. Then we looked at Airtable. Then we looked at things like databases and how you can actually customize any data you've got coming in for whatever you want to build. So sales pipelines, CRMs, like task managers, content calendars, whatever you need to use, you can pretty much mold Airtable to your needs, which is awesome. Then yesterday we looked at Glide, which let us kind of build mobile apps from Google Sheets, which is really simple. So now you almost feel like we're kind of starting to put a product together, all the parts needed to build products. So this is the no-code version of building products and apps where usually you need like a developer to build you like a website and then a database and then like a way to get the data from one place to another. And then a mobile app until things like Glide and all these other builders came along. It was kind of out of reach to have a mobile app unless you had a decent budget, then you fancied spending that on getting it developed. And where no code kind of really thrives is being able to tie all of these tools together. So you have lots of different tools and products available to you now that kind of stand out in their own right. So you have Webflow, it's great for websites and potentially more. Then you have Glide for things like mobile apps, etc., etc. But where things really get powerful, which is how MakerPad was made possible, is when you have something like Zapier, which ties all of this stuff together. So if you've ever heard of the like if this then that type comment, there's actually a product called if this then that as well, which is like a similar type of automation thing, but fairly like low level and less, I'd say less business applications than something like Zapier. But basically, if something happens in one app, do something in another app. And the way that this was traditionally done was through APIs. And obviously, I guess there'll be some of you familiar with APIs, but an API is something which allows you to communicate or interact with a piece of software rather than actually just being logged into the software and doing it on or while you're logged in, for instance. That might be a good explanation. And what Zapier does is Zapier will connect to each app, so you can connect any two of these apps together without having to write a single line of code. So if I just share my screen now, what we're going to do today is basically just log out. What we're going to do today, we're just going to have a quick overview of Zapier. Obviously, the beginnings of this may be fairly foundational to people who've used Zapier before, but obviously you can make things as simple or as complex as you want. And then we're going to actually just go ahead and try and connect together some of the things we've built previously. So why don't we create something which connects our card site with a Airtable, with a Google Sheet, with a Glide app. So this is all possible within Zapier. You could tie obviously your Gmail account to a Google Sheet. So when something happens in a Google Sheet, send an email in Gmail. And there is over 1,500 apps available. So depending on which apps that you use for your business, projects, workflow, automation, there's probably a Zap in there that can automate some work. So popular ones are, let's say if you had an incoming email in Gmail and it had some attachments, you might want to go ahead and save those attachments into Dropbox, for instance, just to save you having to dig around with them. That is quite a useful one. And if you actually go on Zapier.com, you could, which hopefully you all are, if you scroll down on the Explore page, you can actually just see they kind of pre-build a load of apps for you. And you can kind of scroll through and see if there's any ones that are applicable to you. Something like Trello is really useful. Obviously, Google Sheets, MailChimp. We did a we connected our card site, or some of us connected our card site on Monday with MailChimp. So we actually received some data in there. We could now use Zapier to go a step further and say when someone signs up in MailChimp, then send them an automated email or notify the team that there's been a new sign up to your email list. Stuff like that. If basically you use any apps, there's a pretty high chance that you can automate some work with Zapier. So, has everybody got Zapier open? That's pretty much just a brief overview of Zapier. I'm sure some of you have had a look into it before today. If you have Zapier open and logged in, just drop a yes in chat, or shout, or wave, or thumb up, or whatever you want to communicate. Cool. Okay, so what we built is we've got a Glide app. This is kind of, if you're thinking of like a product, the good example of this, we're going to actually just create an automation for this. So what we're going to do is we want people to actually be able to like submit some, maybe a restaurant, maybe we want to advertise our product through a website. So I've just built like a simple card site here for our restaurant app. It's like 10 seconds. So this is like a find the best restaurant that's local to you, and then we've got a couple of buttons, get the app, and list the restaurant. So we want to try and think about like how are we going to actually get somebody to submit a restaurant to here without having to kind of like download the app. So we know that all of our information to power this app lives within this Google Sheet here, and we know we've got this being generated out of it. So how do we do that? One way that I know we've mentioned previously is through a type form, and we haven't really showed Typeform. Obviously you play with it doing the quizzes, but Typeform is like a really good way of taking some data in and then pushing it to a place you want. Typeform kind of integrates with a lot of things. It works really nicely with Zapier. So we can actually use this to get some data from people who want to submit their restaurants and then push this into our application. So if you want, you can build along in this part, but what we're going to do is we need to get some information in here, and we need the information in this format here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do before we set up a Zap, we're going to set up a new Typeform. So I don't know if you created a Typeform account yet, or if anyone's got a Typeform account. If you want to build along, just take a minute and set one up. I should have probably preempted this. So it's typeform.com. I thought it would be best that we actually just go through and do the thing. We're going to want a few things open. We're going to want Typeform, we're going to want a Google Sheet, we're going to have an Airtable, then we're going to have Glide, and then we're going to have Card. Let me know when everyone's got Typeform set up and logged in. All set? No worries, Chris. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll start putting one together, and then once you can go back through, I'll make sure I don't like skip too far ahead. So with Typeform, we want to go ahead and actually just create a new Typeform. And we're going to start from scratch. We're going to call this a restaurant form. And actually, we don't actually need that. Cool, so when you're actually taking data in, is you would actually just format it in the same way that we did with an Airtable form previously, where that will automatically match up the columns. We're just going to go in ahead and ask some quick questions. You can actually just go ahead and do this. You don't have to wait for me to do it one by one. We're going to want a question to ask for each piece of info with the correct type. So text, website, text, number, URL, or image upload. We can do it both ways. And then text for the price. Okay, so name is text, type is text, website, address, contact number, image, price. Okay, so we're going to want a form that's available for people who want to actually submit a restaurant listing and mimic that within Typeform. The way you do it, just click Add New Question. Once you're on New Typeform, Add New Question. Make sure it is the correct question type. So when you create a new question, you should be presented with a different question type. Make sure you select the right one. And then go through and create one question for each thing that we're asking. Is everyone okay? Has everyone got a Typeform up? Final price one should be like a multiple choice question. Okay. How's everyone doing? Has everyone got some basic questions in there now? Or on the way to? And the reason, just to explain a bit of context, the reason why we're going to actually set up this Typeform is this is going to act as what's called the trigger within our Zapier. So this is going to actually start our automations off. So this is going to be the first thing that happens to actually create the automation. So our main information comes in here, and it's going to end up live in our Glide app. Okay, let me know when everyone's done. Jackson, you okay? Cool. Okay. So if you want to actually just change the settings on Typeform, we won't spend too much time on Typeform, but just so everyone can see it, you can actually change, if you click into each question, the question settings, you can set it to required, you can add a description, you can change the type if you want to, even after you've set it. Okay, I'm just going to add like two versions of this image question type, because we need a URL, so we can do it a simple way and a more advanced way. Okay, so we've got an image upload here, and also we've got a link. Because remember, with Glide, we need a shared link, not as like an attachment. Okay, so you can't upload an image to a Google Sheet. We need a shared link. So this is where we need Zapier to figure out the exact format of this. So we take a link in here, but also we can take in an image upload, a file, and then use Zapier to do some handiwork to turn that into a shared link. So once you have your type form, go ahead and press publish. Then you can press preview, and you should be able to see a type form on your screen. Okay, once you have that, you see a few options at the top. You have create, connect, and share, and then results. So you can either view your results within Typeform itself, under the results tab. You see a summary and responses. You can have some native connections with Typeform as well, which are quite useful. But what we're going to do, we're going to just use Zapier, so we're not actually going to use these. Also, on the share, a good way to do card, because with card you can't add custom forms on most plans. So we just use Typeform, and we use this link under the share. We copy this. You don't have to do this necessarily. But for our landing page, once we want to direct people to this app, we will just then choose a button, and then in the settings, we just direct this button to our form here. Okay, I haven't published it yet, but basically if anyone's going to want to list their restaurant, they'll go through the button, and then that'll redirect them to their type form, and that's kind of the first step of getting somebody to actually list their data or signing up for your application. This button here, the Get the App, all I've done is I've redirected this one to my app landing page. So if I was a user and I just wanted to actually use my app, obviously we've got a URL available here, which gives you the instructions and the code and the QR code. So we will just select this Get the App button and then pop that URL in there. So now we've got two options. So if you just want the app as a user, you can get it. And then if you want to list a restaurant, this is how you do it as well. So that's pretty useful. So now that we have this and we have a Google Sheet, we can actually just go to Zapier and create a Zap. Make sure you've got your type form published. So just double check by going type form. Make sure you see this grey published button up here. And also on the top left hand corner, you'll see where it says new type form. If you haven't renamed it, just give this a name and say, call it something you'll remember. Okay, cool. Now hop over to Zapier and make sure you're logged in. I'm not. And then you should have this screen or something similar to this screen in front of you, and you should want to be on the dashboard. Is everyone here? Yep. Okay, cool. So let's go, and you've got a few ways to actually find is that you can go through the apps, you can go through the explore page, or you can just go to make a zap, and this will take you directly into your new app page. So let's do that. Find the big orange button in the top right hand corner, press make a zap. And the first thing we're going to do is name this zap. So this is going to be a type form into Google Sheets. And then you can give it a descriptive, maybe call it Glide Restaurants. Okay. And then we basically have to give it two things. So when this happens, do this. So this is called a trigger. The first section here is called a trigger, and the second portion of this is called an action. So everything needs a trigger and everything needs an action. This is basically like, if this happens, do this in its simplest form. So in this case, our trigger is going to be a type form. So look for type form and select it. And then it should add a trigger event. There's only one, and it select a new entry which triggers when a form is submitted. Select that, then press continue, and then you should have, this will be your first time, so you want to connect to your Typeform account. You may see add new account, it may show up slightly differently on your screen, but you basically want to connect to your Typeform account and log in. And then once you've done that, press continue. I'll just pause here just to make sure everyone has time to do that, just in case you're logging in for the first time. Give me a wave, a shout, or a tick, or a shout when you've done that in chat. Jackson's good. Kada, Anil, Ethan, okay, good. Just checking. Anil, is everything okay? Whereabouts are you? All good? Perfect. Yeah, all good. Wasn't able to include a file upload field in the trial version. Okay, yeah, cool. Wasn't sure what fields are available in Basic, because they kind of like hide it from you if you've got a pro account. But I can show you this way. That's why I put both in, because I think, is the website one available in Typeform? Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, we can do it both ways anyway. So when you're on this in Typeform, we're just going to go ahead and select our form. So on your customize entries, select this, and I'm guessing it should be the top one. Select the form that we want to use. Then press continue, and then press test and continue, and then it's going to try and look for some data, and then you should have a green tick. So if you've got a green tick, it should automatically try to move on to the action, but so click back into the Typeform, and then click into find data, then you can select the drop down, and you can actually see what data it's got. So in this case, it's pulled in some dummy data for us, so we can actually go ahead and create the zaps without having to fill the form in. But let's go and actually create a restaurant. So just close this, or you can leave it open. And I want you to go and find an image of a restaurant and fill in your type form with that restaurant details. If you need to, you may have to upload your image into a Google Drive and get the shareable link if you're on a Basic account. But go ahead and actually fill in that type form. So go back into type form, press preview. You can see the published version. Then go ahead and test this by filling it in. Okay. Just share the image. Bear with. If you want to test it with a shareable image, if you can't upload one, then here is a link for you. In the chat, you should be able to see that. And you can just use that one. And then press submit. So now that you've actually submitted some information for your form, go back into Zapier, go back into Find Data, and then you can actually go and press this Get More Samples button. So if you press that, you should see that you've now got a new entry in here. Okay, so you should now see the data you just input. So actually Zapier has picked up that information from Typeform and it's made it available to us within Zapier. So now when we go ahead and connect our action, we can put this data wherever we want. Does that make sense to everybody? Is everybody okay so far? And obviously this might be pretty basic stuff for anyone who's used Zapier before, but I think it's obviously important for people who haven't seen Zapier before and anyone self-pacing this. And this might be the first time you actually pull data from one app and putting it into another, so appreciate everyone bearing with us. So this is a bit on the basic side for now. Cool, so now once we've done this, shout if you need a minute, but I'm just going to push on. Press done editing, and then we've got a green tick and we've had a new entry from Typeform. Now we're going to want to add an action. So our action is going to be Google Sheets. So we want to add this data straight into our Google Sheet that's actually powering our app. So as soon as someone enters a restaurant into Typeform, let's go ahead and push this data into a Google Sheet. So we're going to select Google Sheets as the app, and we're going to create a spreadsheet row as the action event, and press continue. Find or connect the appropriate Google Sheets account. And then go ahead and connect the spreadsheet you want to use. And then connect the worksheet you want to use as well. Make sure we don't want to push it in reviews or logins. We want to push this straight into restaurants. Cool. So when you actually get through to the worksheet part, Zapier will then go and have a look in your spreadsheet and actually pick up the columns that are available to you to use. So notice that we have name, type, website address like we predicted, and now we've got these available to us in Zapier. So all we can do now is actually just go ahead and map this data across. And the way we map it across is by selecting this button, the Insert a Field button on the right hand side. Select it, and you can see all of your data that's come from Typeform. And all we have to do is kind of go through and pick up each piece. So name to name, type to type. So if you're here, just go through and map all of your data across, and I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, once you've done that, press continue. And then if all is well, you can press test to continue. And Zapier should send that data from Typeform into your Google Sheets. If you've got a green tick, it should work, and you can check the data sent again by dropping down the sent data, and you should get a big green bar saying the test spreadsheet row was sent to Google Sheets about 7 seconds ago. Then press done editing. If you've done it right, you should see a thing pop up called your Zap is ready. Turn it on and try it out. Let me turn it on. And once your Zap's on, that will run. Every time that you submit a type form, that will get pushed straight into your Google Sheet. And you'll see now we have a row within our spreadsheet containing the data we want. I'll give everyone a second just to make sure that's working okay. Has anybody ran into any issues with that, or is everybody seeing data? Yep. Who is that, sorry? Oh, oh, cool. Is it matching up? Oh, you're getting some like Lauren Ipsum text. Okay, so what you want to do there is if you can, that's a fine way of doing it because turning on your Zap, if you submitted it again, it will work. But you can actually just change the sample that it uses by going into your trigger, going into find data, and then pressing get more samples, and that will pull in your latest entry, and then you can actually just select the different entry, the most recent one. And then you can kind of view the response here, just check you're using the right one. Cool. Everybody else? Anil, how are you getting on? Jackson, I presume you're okay? Yeah, okay, cool. No worries at all. Cool. So with like Zapier, you can do really simple zaps like this, and then obviously you can get as complex as you want. So these are fairly straightforward to set up, but you can. I just want to show you a couple of other things. So let's say we wanted in our type form somebody to actually upload the image as a file rather than just trying to get them to have a shareable link. Sometimes that can be annoying. We need to think what's going to be the best way for somebody to actually upload their data the easiest. So Zapier make it really easy for things like this. We can actually just add like an intermittent step because I uploaded an image here and it pushed this image to Typeform. So what we'll need to do, we can add a step in the middle here. So why don't we go ahead and take the image that came through from our form response, and in between these two steps we can add it to Google Drive and upload the file, copies an existing file from another service to Google Drive. So if you just think about Zapier as a series of steps, so very methodical, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So we have a new entry in Typeform. Now you want to upload the file to Google Drive. This saves us kind of finding the image and uploading it and getting the shareable link. You can automate this as well. You can upload the file, press continue. We'll select our Google Drive account. We can go through and select the folder where it's going to be. So we want to upload it into, say, our bootcamps folder. And again, if you want to navigate deeper into each folder, you can just reselect this and it will search for the folder. Search for the folder again. And again, all the way down to where you want to put it. Then again, we insert a field. We look for the image. Please upload an image of your restaurant. This is this one. And then we press continue. So what this step is going to do, the only piece of data that this step is worried about is only interested in the image. So you can actually, if you're describing this to somebody, you can actually rename each portion of your Zap, and you can say, okay, take image from Typeform and upload it to Google Drive. This is like commenting on code bases, so you can actually see it. So new entry in Typeform, take the image from Typeform and upload it to Google Drive, and then we'll have to go back into our action, recustomize our spreadsheet row. We should have another option to us. Maybe just refresh the fields just in case anything's changed. And then we take, now we have our Google Drive step available to us. Open up this, and then we have all of this data available to us from Google Drive. So we want to look for a shareable link in the fields. This looks like one here. Looks similar to a shareable link, so we use this one. And then press continue. So this is just replacing where we actually took the link from Typeform, and it's using the link from the next step after it's been uploaded to Google Drive. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If you want to retest it and continue, okay, all seems to have worked. You can go back into our Google Sheet. Now we have 2 records for Tom's Steakhouse, and we have 2 different files. So if we open up our image, okay, don't know if that was actually the image I wanted, but let's just double check that. Bear with me. Does that make sense to everybody, what I did there? Yeah, so I may have actually used the wrong one. Let me just double check. Okay, so there are multiple, obviously, image properties here, so I might actually just need to go and check that. So we've got the name, the owner's email address. This is all the information that's available to us at each step. So because we want a link, we need to find a drive.google link, but that might be the wrong one. Embed link, download URL. We just scroll through. It may be web content link. Let me just test that. I'm actually not sure. This is a download, so let's try it. Because I was expecting a picture of a restaurant, not a mountain. Okay, so that's just downloaded. Okay, so yeah, this makes you can use different things for it. I don't know if I did actually upload the right picture in the first place, but if we actually check on our Glide app, yeah, okay, so let's pull through this one from the shared URL. So now if you see in your app, it's actually added this here. This one has not worked. Does everybody have like a new record inside the Glide app? Kada, Anil, Ethan? Awesome. Okay. Obviously, the that Google Drive step is irrelevant, really, anyway, because we're on free Typeform plans, so you're going to want to use shareable links. But just notice that you can do it multiple ways in multiple steps. So, what does anyone foresee what the problem would be just firing results from a Typeform directly into your mobile app? If you had this app in the hands of users, what problems do you reckon we could run into? Yeah, maybe pictures of nefarious items, perhaps, maybe some information we don't want in there. And if we just had like a simple app, I mean, it'd be great if we just trusted everybody to upload restaurants all the time and the correct information. That'd be awesome. But this is real life, and chances are of that happening is quite slim. So we will have to create another way of managing this. So can anyone think of a good way how we can do it? What tool have we used in the past that may be a good solution to managing this? Airtable. Good shout, Ethan. So the reason why Airtable will work really well is because we can have different views. So would it be a good idea to have all of the responses coming in and then only the responses that we approve to go into the app? That could work. So why don't we do exactly that? If you want, you can obviously carry on building along. I'm going to go into Airtable now, and I'm going to create a brand new Airtable with exactly the same headers as we had before. So these are going to be the headers. No worries, Chris. Catch you later. So we're going to have a new base. That's going to have name, type, website, address, contact number, image, price, and then Airtable needs a created time, and also I've added a submitted by, just because I know that this was potentially something we can send in the background of our app. If anyone was uploading it via their app, we can want to find out who submitted it. That could be quite handy. So now we're going to actually use this as the place, like we do through MakerPad, is we have this as like the center store of all our information, and then we can selectively use the information and push it exactly where we want. So at the moment, our Typeform is going directly into Google Sheet. We want it to go into Airtable first. So we go back into Zapier. And let's create a new Zap. This app's going to be called Typeform to Airtable. Okay, so when this happens, when Typeform new form is submitted, go through, connect the same account, connect the same form, press continue, press test to continue, make sure we're seeing some data again. Hope this is get more comfortable with where everything is with Zapier. See your drop down. Okay, we've got our response here. The next step is going to be Airtable, and it's going to be to create a new record. We're going to connect our Airtable account. If you are building along and you're connecting your Airtable account, you need to get your API key. To find your API key within Airtable, open up Airtable. You select your face in your account in the top right hand corner. Select account. This will open up a new window. And then if you scroll about halfway down, your API key should be here, blanked out. Just double click this and copy and paste it into the pop-up window that Zapier asks for, and then press connect, if I remember rightly. If anybody's doing that just now, and let me know if that's what's happening and if you've connected it. Just wait a second just in case anyone's doing it. Everyone okay? Ethan, how's it going? Anna? Good. Anna, do you need a moment? Whereabouts are you? I don't mind. We don't mind waiting. Okay. No worries. We can wait. So the good thing is once you get used to using Zapier, you can pretty much just connect it to wherever your data is. So maybe you've got like a bunch of things happening in a business. Maybe you've got some leads. You've got some leads coming in through an email address, attachments or contracts that you want to save. You could create a Zap, which then takes in your Gmail, pulls out the attachment, uploads it to a shared Google Drive, which has like permissions for certain teams. And then you can maybe fire out a Gmail or a Slack notification to certain people to let them know that client A has returned the contract. It is here. Here's the shared link, and is ready for next step. You could then go ahead and upload the file plus the record into, say, HubSpot. You could then move your Trello card from one column to another, and any kind of manual process you think of, you can pretty much automate with Zapier, with something like Integra Map. Basically, just think about the manual tasks you do and try and automate them if possible. Like a good example of what we do in MakerPad, one of many Zaps, is to do with our video editor. We film a tutorial. Once I upload this tutorial into, we use something called Frame. Once it's uploaded into Frame, it gets notified, it gets uploaded to Dropbox. Once it gets added back in, we're notified that it's been done. Then we can upload it to YouTube, etc. And then when things happen there, we get like a bunch of triggers and automations also. Things that happen on the MakerPad site. If people create a new post on MakerPad, we get a notification in Slack saying this user has posted. Here it is. Here's the link. Here's the title, etc., etc., etc. So once you get pretty fluent with Zapier, you can create some awesome stuff. Cool. Anna, did you see where I just showed where you find your API key in Airtable? Sweet. Perfect. Okay, now you've got your Airtable account added. Just go ahead and press continue. We're going to want to create a record in Airtable. You should be able to find your base now. So the base is called MakerPad. If you want, you can scroll, but you can also type. Is it database, restaurant, database? Yeah, cool. And then you can select your table, all submissions. And again, you've got this drop down with your fields, go ahead and do exactly the same thing as before. Map across your fields quickly. Website address, contact number, price. And then once you've done that, press continue. And then test continue. Press done editing. Go back into Airtable and you should see that you now have a record within Airtable. Pretty simple. We'll just give everyone a second and ping in chat when you're done. So as we know, Airtable gives us much more control. So Google Sheets, you have just simple sheets. You can't really do much. You don't have much control over it. But Airtable gives us the power to do views, which means we can filter our data. We could then base automations off of that data as well, which is really useful. And the most powerful automation, I think, with Airtable is new record. It's called new record in view in Zapier. So if everybody's ready, what we're going to do is create a new, let me just remove this one, let me just delete it, we'll do it again. Delete this view. So we've got our table, I'm going to call it all submissions, and we've got all of our submissions are going to go into this first view. And we're going to create a new grid view. It's important to remember that Zapier only works off of Airtable grid views. It won't pick up any other views. So you can't do new record in view off of a gallery or Kanban or calendar view. So it has to be a grid view. And the new record in view, remember, we're creating a new view here. So as soon as a new record hits this view, that will then trigger our Zap. So rather than doing a generic Zap, which just looks for a new record and then do something, we want to make sure we kind of have some version control or some control over submissions, which then will push this record into a view if it meets a certain set of criteria. I'm going to call this approved. Okay. And obviously we haven't got a filter on at the moment, so new record in view is going to just show us the exact same data. But within this approved view, we're just going to want the ones that have got the right data. So we don't want any bad pictures. If everyone's submitted the right data, we can go ahead and approve it. And the way we'll do that is make sure you're in the all view, so you can see all one of your responses. Go and add another field, call it approved. Change the field type, customize the field type. I'm just going to have a checkbox. Okay, so now we can add a checkbox to our record. So new record comes in, great, give us a chance to check it over. And then we can approve it by adding a thumb. A thumb up or a tick or a heart, whatever you fancy. And what this field allows us to do is if we go into our new view, which is approved, we can now filter where approved is checked. Does that make sense? So just to recap what we did there, we have all of our submissions coming to this first all view within Airtable. So we're going to have, just imagine we have 50 people submit through our type form. It goes through our Zap and then gets submitted into our Airtable. So we now have 50 records. There could be a big variety of quality within our data in these records. So people might have just added a bad link, they might have added the wrong number, their address might be rubbish, they might have not put a price, they might be missing some stuff. We don't want to push this data into our app until we've approved it. So we want to filter it. So what we do, we go ahead and create a new view. We select this arrow next to this all view, add the drop down, select a grid, and in that grid we need something to filter by. So at the moment we can't filter by any of this because this is just client submitted data. So we add a new field on the end called approved. We change the field type to a checkbox. We press save. And then in the newly created approved view, we add a filter where approved is checked. And because we haven't checked this record in our previous view, it's not currently in there, so it's not been approved. Whereas if we check it, now it has been approved, now it is available in this view here. So this is why the new record in view trigger is very useful, because as soon as a piece of information hits this view, then it can go into our Zap. So this kind of gives you a piece of manual control over where your data goes and what data shows up on your website. So a good example of this, we mentioned Unicorn Factory before, things like user profiles. We don't want to have user profiles on a site if they've contained bad data. So they submit, we just check it, yeah, all looks good, approve it, and then that sets off another Zap. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep. Cool. I know Jackson's okay. Kada. Yep. Yeah, you could do. Yeah. So you could even inside Zapier, you could do a create record in Airtable. So once they filled it in, you could just go and add another step. You could do a Gmail step. Again, you could just map across the information saying thank you for submitting your information to our website, just to confirm the following information is correct, and then you go from there. So Anna, that's okay, cool, Ethan's okay, fine. So um so it is, I'd say, personal preference. Really depends how much you like splitting things out. We like to keep anything that's one like singular process or workflow. I like to keep in one Zap. It just makes it easier to manage because you can follow the data from start to finish rather than having to like see like exit one Zap and then dive into another, because then you don't know where it's broken. Whereas if it breaks in this, you can kind of debug the whole Zap by just looking into it and seeing what the data was coming in, like how it got transformed, where it got uploaded, and then what happened when it went out. So you also get error logs on the right hand side. If you were to say split out a single process across two Zaps, you'd have to kind of cross-reference error logs and see where it went wrong. So I'd like to keep single processes like form submissions and uploads, and then notifications. So traditional one would be someone submitting some information, it gets uploaded to somewhere, someone gets notified. That would be like a 3-stage, like a multi-step Zap, which all should be done in one Zap. Cool. But yeah, you can feel free to obviously split out Zaps as much as you want and name them accordingly. So let's go ahead and we can now go and create what will be actually an effective Zap. So exit out. And let's go and create a third Zap. And the first step in this case, so we've got information going from Typeform into our Airtable right now. So now what we want to do is we want to push Airtable into Google Sheets. So we're going to search for Airtable as a trigger, and the trigger event is going to be a new record in view. And press continue. Select your Airtable account. Select your base. Select your table, which is going to be all submissions. Remember, it's a table. So if you look at Airtable, this is the table, the tab or the sheet. It's probably known as Google Sheet. This is the table, and then within the table you have views. So remember, the table contains all the data, and the views is just different ways of interpreting that data without changing it. So new record in view, base, table, view. Now we're not going to select all. We're going to select approved. So we're only interested in the data in the rows that get approved by us. Then we press continue, and then we press test to continue. Okay, so we actually should have a record in approved. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it from my Google Sheet. So we have a record in approved. You just go and check again. Just always good practice to check the data is what you expect. There we go. Perfect. If you want to fill in your form again and pull more samples, you can. And then the next step is we can actually push this into our Google Sheet. So go ahead, and I'll leave you to do that on your own. Map the fields across. The good thing is with Zapier, once you create your Zap and you switch it on, then you don't have to do it ever again, apart from maintenance. So we like to spend a good amount of time automating processes just so we don't have to do them ever again. It means that you can actually just scale up pretty nicely. So this bootcamp, for instance, is a good example. So we'll always be thinking about, okay, how do we make this bootcamp the most effective? What are the moving parts? Is it things like submitting projects, completing quizzes, uploading those quiz results to Airtable, issuing emails, or issuing the resources at the end of the day? How can we take those processes and then create the automation flow against it, so it can be most effective and most efficient for not only us but our students? So making sure we deliver all the resources on time, making sure that all appropriate files are where they should be, everyone's notified at every stage of what everyone's doing, and everything is uploaded to YouTube at the right time, for instance. So these are kind of things, if you're comfortable using automation tools, that you're always thinking about. So do I want to spend an hour doing this repeated report every single day, or can I automate it so it just happens automatically? And the good thing is now is there's tons of tools out there to do exactly that. Okay, I don't know where I've created that. Where was it? Airtable. Just press back by accident. Airtable's Google Sheets. Not that one. That'll teach me for clicking out and not renaming my Zap. Okay, I don't think it was. How's everyone getting on? Okay. Okay. So now, if you press test continue in the end of your Google Sheet step, you should again see another row of data, or the data you expect within your Google Sheet. Is everyone seeing that? Oh, Ethan, got it? Yes, good. Anna, did you need a second? Cool, nice. So then, Ethan, if you wanted to go and actually just check, so you should have one Zap which sends the information from your type form to your Airtable, and now you have another Zap which does new record in view. So when you approve it, that'll send it to your app. So if you wanted to go back through the entire flow, go into Webflow, so go into type form, and submit a restaurant just to check that it goes through to Airtable again, and then approve it, see if it goes through to your app. No worries. Sweet. So yeah, you can see how you can get pretty complex things together within Zapier. There's a bunch of other things you can do with it. They've just released advanced workflows where you can do branching and paths. So if something happens, do this, else do that. So you can have multiple paths within Zaps. So if you're filtering different routes of data, if you have different client types, or let's say you were doing conditional and logic-based forms that you wanted to filter and send notifications to different people, you can do that within Zapier. That's really nice. You can test your path rules as well to see if your path would or would have not continued. You can add actions like a regular Zap to your path. Also, yeah, you can get as simple or as complicated as you like. Zapier also has some native applications built into it, which prove quite useful. Sometimes when you're actually dealing with data, often people just input crazy things, or you need to actually format your data in a different way. So there is things like formatter, just not showing up there, but all these things here are kind of built-in apps. So these are built-in triggers. You have a schedule by Zapier. Maybe you want your Zap to run at a certain time every single day. So you use a schedule as your trigger. So 9 a.m., pull this data from here, put it into this format, and send this email out. That's like a really, really simple one. We use one to send a message in Slack to ask everyone what they're doing every day. So it's like a daily stand-up bot, really simple. 10 a.m. message goes out. What did you do yesterday? What are you working on today? Anything blocking you? That's really good. You have a native email function in here, an email parser by Zapier. So if you wanted to actually get an email coming in and pull out the information, that can be good. You can do like aggregated newsletters and things like that. Have webhooks if you want to get slightly more advanced, RSS, code snippets as well. And then you have some other ones available to you, which are available in action steps. Remember, we have actions and we have triggers. So you have some helper functions here. So you have paths, you have filters, you have delays, and formatter. So let's say you had data in one format, but you wanted to get it in another. You can use a formatter to actually work with numbers, utilities, change the date and time. Obviously, some apps submit dates and times in different formats. Apps like Airtable need date and time in a different format, so you can actually use this to format your date and time. And then you can do text, where you can work with text to find and replace and remove HTML and nice things like that. So as you kind of scale up your Zap skills, you might find yourself working with those a little bit more. Another one is, let me just remove this, another useful thing with Zapier is filter. So maybe we want to actually just filter based on some conditions. So you can filter by date, you can filter if information was present, so only if the website starts with www or is equals or is true, for instance, and something else. So you can then check if you were to run. Exactly matches you can use. That's quite useful if you're expecting like a certain type of data all the time. That's quite useful. You can check if like a number's in the right format, if it exists. So you can have, this is like one of those things where you could add like a step just to make sure your data's correct. If the website exists, press continue, and then it will tell you yes, your Zap would have continued. So when you say if it does not exist, hopefully it would stop. Okay, cool. This wouldn't have pushed data to our apps, because the last thing you want to do is just push all the data through to all your apps, because then it just gets messy. Hopefully that makes sense. Cool. Is there any Zaps that are kind of coming to mind that you think would be useful in whatever you're using, building, trying to do at the moment? We can actually just have a quick peek and see if we can do it. Any tools that we maybe use like day to day, or any repetitive processes that might be useful in automating? Yeah, it's a good one. Show you. So with Gmail, new email matching search, so you can receive a new email that matches a search string you provide. A new thread, when just a new email in an inbox, or a labeled email, starred, new attachment, label. So pretty comprehensive, and it depends how obviously your email's set up. You can do that. Again, you could then add Gmail as your action. So you could then add like you can even add like Gmail in there. So if a Gmail come in from a certain person, you could even just forward it on, because I know jobs exist that there's people that are still just forwarding on emails as their entire job, or you can just automate that. And then the actions, you have again some different functionality available to you, like send, create draft, create a new label, add label to the email, remove it, reply, etc., etc. Any others? Let's have a look. So, triggers when you tweet something, triggers when a specific user tweets, a specific user likes a tweet, a search mention. So you can be watching out for mentions of your username. I know there's obviously software to do that, but if you wanted to create a Zap for like a really specific term or hashtag they might be using in a campaign, that might be useful. Search or geo mention, a new follower of me, triggers when there's a new tweet in a specific list that you choose. That might be quite useful. You could also do it, so let's say you had like a membership site and you have people signing up. So again, it's using like MakerPad as an example. If somebody signs up as a MakerPad member, they have like an image, they have like a title, a job title, a description, and maybe like a link or like their Twitter handle. We could then auto generate a tweet. We say when. Let me just have it. Show you. I know we were mentioning Webflow earlier on, Jackson. So Webflow's got a connector in here. So you could have a trigger event of a new form submission. And then you can do something. So maybe the form condition contains something, maybe it's like a user sign up form or something. You can then pull that information through and then, I don't know, send a tweet out or send like an automatic Gmail out saying we've got it. Or you could then maybe push them into MailChimp or ConvertKit, then triggers like an onboarding sequence. That could be quite handy to do. So you can do that from Zapier or inside of Webflow. You could, if your form submission contained, let's say, a certain budget, if you were, say, like a marketing agency and a client said, okay, my budget is, like we used example the other day, where is my budget £10,000 a month, you might want to then take this form submission and then push it to one person. But if it was less than 10,000 a month, you might want to push it to another person. So you can do all this within Zapier and it gives you complete control over what's happening. Any other Zaps you're curious if you can do or not? There's over 50, I think there's over 1,500 apps within Zapier to choose from. So chances are anything's in there. I know we looked at things like, Amy's looked at things like Zendesk as well. This is categorized by app. So if you go into your apps, you can search by apps. It gives you all of them in here. It's got categories, top 100, premium, and then it gives you the upcoming apps and then early access, etc., etc. So yeah, take some time and have a look through, see which ones are applicable. There is also other automation platforms available. This is another one, just while we're on the topic of automation. Integra Map, this is similar sort of thing to Zapier in format. So task automation. This works in a slightly different way in terms of like visual layout. This is very like step-by-step visual, so you can see everything on screen. They use like a canvas type Webflow feel, so you can add these actions to canvas and connect them together. Like this Gmail one, for instance. So watch your emails, add a new row to Google Sheet, process the attachments, and then depending on the attachments, you can post it to Facebook or zip them up and upload to Dropbox. We've got some really good examples here, which are really useful. And then again, similar to Zapier, gives you a load of examples to work through, integrations, and then triggers and actions that are available for each. If you were to compare the two, so maybe a common question is what's the difference between Integra Map and Zapier? Is one, like layout, usually it's personal preference. I think Integra Map gives you I'd say pretty more control and more granular control over your data, I'd say. So you can actually dive in and see exactly what piece of data and the bytes and the size and sorts of control over exact formatting. And they do a really good job of routing, like visual routing and everything, and error handling within Zapier. So let's say if your automation throws an error, what happens? So you can actually just create like a bunch of different routes. You can probably do it in Integra Map as well, in Zapier as well, but Integra Map handled it really nicely. So if there's an error, do this thing. If it was okay, do something else. And although Integra Map, I think Integra Map is slightly cheaper, I'd say, but it does not have as many applications available. So it's got fewer applications, but of the applications that it does have, the APIs are kind of, I'd say they're connected all the way down, so it has a lot more functionality within the individual apps themselves, whereas Zapier kind of goes broad, connecting as many apps as possible, but then stays quite shallow in actually the API integration, so you might not get like granular control. A good example of that would be Integra Map. You could set up an automation to watch a single cell within a specific Google Sheet, say like G2, Whereas with Zapier, you have to kind of look up the whole row and then filter down the data from there. So just a few nuances. I guess it's definitely personal preference and stuff, but good to check out. And then if you wanted to go an enterprise version of the both, then you've got Tray, which is enterprise grade automation up there as well. So yeah, I think that is the rundown of Zapier. I'm just sharing my screen. Is there any questions? Did I skip over anything? Was anything confusing? Do you feel like you know how to create a Zap now? Hopefully you do. Ethan, how do you find that? Oh, DMs. I don't know about direct messages on Twitter. I don't think you can do it on there, but if you wanted to go into some other automations, you can do something like Phantom Buster, I think, does Twitter quite well. I want to have a look into that. And Anil, how about yourself? Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think you find yourself even like the simple, boring things, you just automate them away, so you never have to do them again. Is there any other things that come to mind in your current day to day that you could see yourself automating with Zapier? Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Alrighty. So let me just grab a shared link for you and we'll give you a bit of a task to do today. So there you go. There's a link to a folder in Google Drive, and you should have a Zapier task in there. So the actual task, obviously there's only a couple of you building like along today, and everyone will be following up later, so they wouldn't have actually done this. So if you have already kind of built along, which both of you sounds like you have, you can actually go ahead and apply it to something else. I know you've both got like personal projects on the go. You can actually go and replicate what we did today, but use it for your own personal projects. And then for everybody else who is self-pacing, then they can go through and do this task for the restaurant app that we built with Glide. So we want to have a type form. If you wanted to connect a card site to the download page on Glide, you can do that as well. You want to redirect users to a type form. They can fill in some information. This could be like a lead or a new user or a business, whatever you want to take in info. Push that to an Airtable. Have some form of data control, all the information that you need from said person, and then use Zapier to connect all those things together. Maybe you want to go ahead and actually just create some personal notifications. You can have a look into things like obviously Gmail. You can have a look into something like Twilio to send you a SMS when something happens. That's quite a cool one, or any things like that. So basically just apply what you've learned today to the personal projects that you've been building over the last few days and see what cool automations you can come up with. Try and get at least two zaps done. That'd be cool. Maybe some involving some data submission, data management, and maybe a notification. And I think that'd be a good rep to get in for today. Hopefully that makes sense. Bear with me. And we have Luke. Yes, you are correct. Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's go. Okay, try that one. That's the same link, but it should work now, hopefully. Any luck? Yeah, Ethan's got it. Cool. Okay. Nice. Well, it's cool that you built along, so you got the restaurant one done, so you can now just apply what you've learned today to your personal project. So looking forward to seeing what you get done. I will leave you to it and then catch you all later. See you in a bit. Bye.